from it, Living Originally. I don't know if I, yeah. And in there he's got the 5 core practices and the 5 special practices, and we've been talking a lot about all of these practices. Some of them include radical self-awareness, deep self-acceptance, unlimited forgiveness. Anybody been using that yet lately? I have. If you've been reading any headlines, you would be too. Okay, so today we're going to talk about this practice, living in the heart of desire. Okay. So in the daily word reading that Lori talked about, when she shared it with us, it says that, there are sometimes we have these cravings, right? Chocolate, a big meal, splurge to go shopping. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a deeper desire that I believe comes from God, the Spirit within us, right? That divine Spirit that's within us all. It's not about purchasing something luxurious or indulging in that sweet treat. We live in a world where instant gratification is the focus. Have you noticed that? Right? If we can't get something right away, all of a sudden it's very, like, why can't I get this? I used to go weeks waiting for one letter to show up in the mailbox. Now, if you haven't emailed me instantly in reply to an email I send, I'm going, what's wrong? What's happening? Where are they? Right? It's instant gratification. And I am here to tell you I've done some experimenting in my own life with what's it like to wait a little bit. Feels pretty good. My ultimate example for you is the fact that I'm enrolled in this 5-year program, which feels like it's been forever, and in 3 weeks, at the end of the 3rd week, I will be done with my 3rd complete year of the program, which is exciting. However, there are days when I'm focused on 2 more years, rather than 3 years down, 2 to go. Because that last year is going to be a little different. That last year is going to be a little less classes and a little more hands-on experience, which I'm already getting here thanks to you. So, but yeah, that's the thing. That's the experiment of, it's not about instant gratification. I'm already thinking about 2 years from now, well, what am I going to do with all this free time when I don't have classes, I don't have homework? What am I going to do? Oh, I know, I'll write a book. So that's already going in my mind.
I'd like an express copy, please.
Yes.
You'll be full-time by then.
I'll be full-time by then, yeah. I'll have plenty of time to sit and add material to the book, right? You guys are a riot. Oh, man. All right. So, this is the scripture from that daily word. I need these notes. Excuse me 1 second here. The scripture, before they call, I will answer. While they are yet speaking, I will hear. So that's referring to this idea that God, Spirit, Source, already knows what's on our hearts. And that our prayers are already answered before we ask, but we have to go through the asking part. Right? But before they call, I will answer, and while they are yet speaking, I will hear. So think about this for just a moment, and don't think about like one luxurious purchase. Go deeper. What is my deepest heart's desire? And what if you got it? What if it manifested itself right in front of your very eyes? What then? It's manifested for me. You've seen me here. I set my sights on UCM in 2017. I said, that's the church that I'm going to. They don't know it yet, but I'm coming. And they're going to use me in some way. Right? So that's what I did. That's what I did. I set my sight, and it just happened. It was almost like God heard me. And he said, okay. We don't believe that. I don't believe that God is a he in the sky and all of a sudden blessing. right? But it feels that way sometimes, I'm gonna be honest with you. But here's the thing, this can happen for all of us. What is our heart's deepest desire? Emily Cady, in the book Lessons in Truth, talks about this desire is actually God tapping on the door of your heart. So have you ever had a dream? Have you ever had like, okay, I want to have my own metaphysical bookstore. I wanna open up a center, a health center, or someplace where all of these healing professionals can come and be. Anything like that that's been on your heart where it really just keeps driving you and driving you. Have you ever had that? Ever?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, angel's
So
answer.
so that's what we're talking about here, is that's what we call living in the heart of desire. And I think that it starts with us just simply meditating and breathing into our heart space, getting centered in the heart, and see what comes up. See what comes up. Desire boils down to what we said in our affirmation in the daily word, which is the desire to know God. That's what this life is all about, in my personal opinion. It may not boil down to that for you, but that's what I'm going to suggest you consider. Because the more I seek to know God, the bigger my experience is. The more my entire world expands. But I'm not focusing on, okay, I have to make my world expand now. I have to get this by such and such a date. I have to do this now. It's not about that, right? The more I focus on getting to know God, and how do I do that? Meditation.
Ask.
Prayer, that prayer meditation goes together, right? I go into prayer and contemplation, and then I get silent and I listen.
Compassion and patience are important.
Yes, compassion and patience. Don't pray for patience. Boy, you'll get more circumstances to be patient in. Be careful with that one.
No.
I think I've told you the story. I had a really good friend of mine who prayed for patience, and her 3 grandchildren were dropped off at her doorstep by her daughter, and she ended up having to take over custody of those kids.
Wow.
And she said, Kathleen, don't ever pray for patience. I mean, they were 6, 7, and 9 years old, and all 3 with behavioral issues and things like that, because they were raised in a chaotic home, and she could provide a better one. But when you come from chaos, trying to go into order is very difficult. So don't pray for it. But yes, patience, if it shows up, is wonderful.
Invoking them is good.
Invoking it. There you go. The desire to know God. When I go into a peaceful time, when I go into meditation, right, I want to sit there and I want to experience the presence of God. Have you ever felt that? Now, sometimes it's not always in the silence. Sometimes we experience the presence of God when we are out in that real world out there, and we encounter a situation, and we get to show up as source, as love, as peace, as joy. And when we show up that way, you get that chill that goes up your spine, right? You get the God bumps, they call them. And you just know, that is an experience of God. Experiencing the presence of God. That's what we're seeking to do. And if we do that, that will be an example of answering before we even call, and God hearing before we even speak. Sounds pretty good to me. Okay, let's do. To manifest your heart's desires, you must be what your heart desires. Okay, let's look at that for just a second, because if we are living from that space, we are living in the heart of desire. Yes? Okay. And then Joy says you must be what your heart desires. So, if you desire prosperity, what do you have to be?
Prosperous.
Prosperous. What else?
Giving.
A giver. Jim Rosemary talked about that 2 weeks ago when he visited here. That's exactly what his lesson was all about. A demonstration of prosperity is not accumulating. A demonstration of prosperity is a giving. Right? If you want love in your life, what do you have to demonstrate? Love. Right? So you have to be loving to those people who don't appear to be wanting to be loved in that moment, right? The more you practice that, the more love you're actually going to receive. Maybe not from that person, but from others and all around. Your experience will be of love.
This is true.
You know what this means? I got bad news for you. It means we're accountable. It means we're responsible for all that we're experiencing. Sometimes circumstances come up. We didn't ask for them. Sometimes they're very challenging circumstances. So I do not mean that if you get a health diagnosis that you caused it. That's not what I'm saying. I don't mean it in that literal sense. But you've watched people, I know you have, you've seen people with different challenges, prosperity challenges, health challenges, all sorts of things, and you've watched them glow as they peacefully and gracefully walk through that challenge. Yes? And you've known somebody, most of us have, right? So it's not about the circumstances then. If that's the case, then it's not about the details and what's happening outside of us. It's about the details of what is happening within us.
Right.
And it falls back to, am I acknowledging that the divine presence, the Christ presence is already within me, and I call that forth. Because as soon as I call that forth, everything else just kind of melts away. Everything else kind of melts away, and then I am ready to go and deal with whatever it is that I'm dealing with. But I come at it from that sense of oneness with the one presence and one power in the universe. If I'm not approaching my day with that idea, with that consciousness, then if somebody cuts me off on the road, you're not going to see such pretty things from me. Right? But if I'm coming at it from that consciousness, I'm going to let them go. Oh, you go ahead. You need to go. I might even let a second car in. People get mad at you up here when they do that. Yeah. I tried that once, so I won't do it again. It's not good. Okay. They're not ready for my kind of generosity yet, I guess. Maybe that's what it is, right? We're working on it. We're working on it. Okay. Gosh, if you walk out of here with nothing else today, I want you to walk out of here with that idea that your desire is to know God would be the best approach to anything. My desire to know God. And in knowing God, that means that I experience the presence in different circumstances. I want to see God in everything I do. I see the face of God in every single one of you. Right? And I see it in the people that I encounter out in the real world too. Not that this isn't the real world, but the cashier, the grocery store department manager, my boss, any of those things. My boss's wife just had a baby, and the baby came to visit us on Friday. It was so Wednesday. He was off on Thursday and Friday. And what a joy. What a joy to just see this little one. And he did not make a peep the entire hour and a half that he was there. He was the quietest baby ever. And the two parents, all they kept saying over and over again, "He's never this quiet." But he was very curious. He wasn't scared, he wasn't upset, but he just was very observant, and he was just kind of looking all around and all of that stuff. So, but when I look at that baby, I see the presence of God. So now here's the challenge. The people in your life, when you look at them, do you see the face of God? Are there a couple of people in your life that maybe you don't always see the face of God? I have a couple of family members that I love dearly, but I'm not always seeing it. I know it's there. I do know it's there. I know we're connected. And I remember that. But it's not always obvious at first. And that's on me too. I'm accountable. I am responsible to look for it. But it's there. I have a quick story to tell you. I went to, this was a few years back, I went out to lunch with a friend of mine that I hadn't seen in a long time. And we had a falling out because they just didn't agree with the direction my life was taking. I had found Unity, but I had not even started licensed Unity teacher classes yet, so I hadn't gotten to that point. But we finally got together, and I think we were 5 minutes into the lunch when they started telling me all the things I was doing wrong again with my life. And I had driven quite a ways to go meet them. And I was pretty annoyed. And they had this one point of contention with me. And it doesn't matter what the details are. Let's just say that they were not pleased with my choices and my outlook on this particular situation. And they were telling me all the reasons why I was wrong. And so I was getting ready to leave. We hadn't even ordered appetizers yet. Like, I was starving, but I wasn't even going to stay, and I was getting ready to leave. And I remembered my Unity teachings. I'd been in Unity for a couple of years at that point. And I remember Jim teaching us about, one presence, one power, divinity in all, one power, one presence. I keep hearing this over and over again in my head. And I look at this person and I look in their eyes. And this person went from a 57-year-old male yelling at me to an 8-year-old little boy. And as soon as I saw that, I can translate it now for you and say I saw the face of God in that moment. I didn't know that's what was going on at the time, but I saw this 8-year-old little boy who was scared beyond anything about certain circumstances. He had a family member that was doing some things similar to what I was doing, and he had just decided that it was the worst thing in the world, and I needed to listen to him, and blah, blah, blah. So he was coming from a place of concern. He was coming from a place of love. It was being expressed as anger. And so in that moment, I saw the 8-year-old instead of the 57-year-old, and I just breathed out and I listened to the rest of what he had to say, and I didn't try to interrupt, which is unusual for me. And I sat there and I just let him finish. And I looked at him and I said, I hear what you're saying. Now, I will be honest with you, there are certain phrases in life that you can use to diffuse a situation. Yeah. One of them is, maybe you're right. Now, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, there is no way that this person is right. But you can use that as a diffuser for the situation that you're in, right? Because it takes some of the energy out of the conflict. In this particular set of circumstances, there was absolutely no way that I could tell him that maybe he was right, because he was so far off in left field, and I'm not even kidding. If I told you what it was, you would agree with me too. So it didn't matter. I needed to say something, and I said to him, I hear what you're saying. That was completely true. I heard every single word that he said. Well, do you know that he turned to me with love in his eyes, and he said, that's all I've ever wanted. That was one of the most profound moments of my life prior to me even starting to take Unity classes. I might have been taking a couple here and there, but it was really before my journey in the classes began. Blew me away. We had a 2-hour lunch. We visited, it was great. I haven't heard from him since, it's been years. I said, stay in touch. He said, yes, I will. I don't know where he's gone to. And that's okay. You know, it's okay, because that moment is etched in my brain forever. If you can take a look at one of those people in your life where you're struggling for whatever reason, and look at them and see from the adult to the child. When we do that blessing, when we do the blessing for, let me just turn this, for the children, thank you. When we do the blessing for the children, do you know that we're blessing ourselves?
Yes.
Okay, there is a picture on Facebook, and it's two adults sitting back to back, facing away from each other. They're angry with each other, their arms are folded, and they're back to back. But the way the image is drawn is there is a little child in a cage inside of them, and those two children inside of them are facing each other, trying to reach each other through the cage.
Yeah.
Couldn't find it, or I would have brought it with me. It's very powerful. We have that child within us.
Yes, we do.
And that's who we're blessing every week, including the children that we know, the Grasso family and others. We're blessing people like my child who's going through health issues right now. You know, we're blessing the children of the world, but we're also blessing the people of the world, because there's always that child within. Think of it that way. And take really good care of that little boy or that little girl inside. Because he and she, they deserve it. You know? Living in the heart of desire. Your heart's desires are not empty vaporings. They foreshadow possible realities man and woman was made to aspire. This is why we're here. Whatever your heart's desire is, whatever it is, whatever you're driven to do, follow the guidance. Follow the Spirit's guidance, not the ego's guidance. And you'll know the difference after a while once you practice this a little bit. You'll know when the ego will usually take you down a road of a temporary situation, temporary fix. Whereas Spirit is guiding you towards a 5-year ministerial program, for instance. You know, lots of things have changed. You know, students have come and gone. In these 3 years, I can't tell you how many students have come and gone that you know, they're not finishing. So I'm getting to meet a lot of wonderful people, and that's great. But I'm missing some of the people I started out with too. And so it's not for everybody, and they are following their heart's desire. So again, I remind you all, and we're going to take this into meditation in a minute, is that it all boils down to going back to my true heart's desire is to know God. And if you remember, if you were here when Jim Rosemurgy was here, again, he said, God isn't doing anything, God is being, right? And God channels its being, God experiences life through us. That's what's happening here. So this is ours to do. I simply need to remember, when all else fails, I go back to the basics. I want to experience the presence of God. And it's not as difficult as it sounds sometimes. It can sound difficult. Like, how do you do that? Just get quiet. You'll hear the voice. You'll know. It's a quieter voice. It's not shouting at me like my ego shouts at me. Does your ego shout at all? Mine does. What are you doing? So, knowing the presence of God is here, within us, acting through us. And we are responsible, and we can handle it, can't we?
Yeah.
We can handle this, yes. Absolutely. Okay. Living in the heart of desire. It's a great practice, don't you think? I can understand why he would have picked this as a special spiritual practice, for sure. And don't forget, next week we're going to have the last talk on this book. And then we'll have a workshop afterwards, just to talk about it. So bring any questions that you might have, or any stories that you want to tell of what you might have focused on. We'll review all of the ones that I've gone through, and we'll talk about the one that I'm not doing a talk on. Because there are 10 practices and I only have one lesson left. So the one is about death, actually, acknowledging death. And it's a part of the process, it's a part of the life cycle. So that we'll get into during the workshop next week. So yeah, living in the heart of desire. You ready?
Ready.
Let's take this into meditation, okay. Go ahead and get comfortable on your seats. And take a couple of deep breaths. Just to get centered. Just relax. We're in this present moment. May the words that I speak now be the words of your own heart. I am living in the heart of desire. I release the need to seek instant gratification. I desire genuine and meaningful connections with others. I desire that which is needed for my soul's fulfillment. The desire for a specific type of work is in my heart. And I follow my heart's guidance now. Today I choose to be what my heart desires. I choose to demonstrate happiness, love, peace, and joy. My desire, my heart's desire is to know God. As I acknowledge this, I take these words into the silence. The heart's desire is to know God. We are all connected through this heart. I seek to experience the presence of God each and every day. I commit to this spiritual practice, and I am beyond grateful for this opportunity. And so it is. Amen. Before you open your eyes, take a couple of deep breaths to just bring yourself back to this place and time. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes.